Good morning. Pleased to see all of you here today. I am Jeff Longbine. I'm a state senator from the 17th District. My district is the Flint Hills. I have Lyon County, Chase County, Marion County, parts of Morris County, parts of Osage County, parts of Greenwood County, and parts of Coffee County. So I think I may be the only senator whose entire district is in the Flint Hills. And I'm delighted to be able to represent the Flint Hills area. We are here today for the Governor's Flint Hills Visioning Summit, and I look forward to an exciting day. I think we'll come up with some really great ideas and have some really great discussions. The thing that I think you will find impressive today is the governor and his team and what they represent. In the short 5 months that I've dealt with Governor Brownback and his staff, I've noticed that they have great vision, including things like the days of expanding government are gone in Kansas. The roadmap for Kansas that the governor will talk a lot about today, I think you'll be very impressed with. But also his vision of knowing that there is no better view than outside of that window right now, and that we need to share that view with the United States and people from across the globe. I've been very impressed with the administration's leadership. They've provided exceptional leadership through my first session. It's very difficult to get 165 legislators from different parties, different constituencies, and different districts to come together and pass the type of legislation that we passed this year. Not only an extremely difficult budget, but we also passed a lot of legislation that I think will move Kansas forward and enable activities like the Flint Hills to further expand. I think you'll be very impressed with his goal of execution. He works extremely hard. I think their focus every day is how can we grow jobs, how can we grow economic activity in Kansas. And so I'm excited about the opportunities today. I welcome all of you here. And at this time, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Governor Jeff Colyer to come forward, and he'll introduce the governor.
It is a great morning, isn't it? It wasn't quite a frost warning. We were 90 degrees last week and 32 a couple of days ago almost. But this is a very important aspect of what the administration, what Governor Brownback's vision is for the state of Kansas. And it's something that all of us as Kansans know that the Flint Hills is really part of the heart and soul of what makes our state such a fabulous place to live. And in that it is so important that it be preserved, nurtured, and grown in the future. And that growth includes all of us here. It is part of what is the fabric of this state, not only as the ecology and the beautiful scenery that we have, but that it is the key part of the growth of this state. The governor and I believe very strongly that economic growth is the key to dealing with the issues that face us over the next 10 or 15 years. And therefore, there's a variety of economic growth summits that Governor Brownback has started across the state to really focus on very key issues across the state. What are some very specific things and ideas that we as Kansans can do to bring out the best in our state, that we can grow our state, and that everybody has a voice in this process, and that we have these pearls that are across, and how do we allow those to grow and expand? That the real secret to our growth is not what government does. The real secret to our growth is not what other people do. It's what we as Kansans do, and what are our real strengths that we have. And so today's summit is really to focus on the Flint Hills and all of its beauty, and all of its glory, and all of its potential for our state. And so we're very excited. We're very excited to hear ideas, and we're really here to listen. We're really here to listen to what is a way that we can build a consensus on how to move forward. And so the governor and I would like to thank you for spending your day, an entire day with us working on this project. But I think it's one that will really set the stage for the future. And to really give us some more focus on the overall process, I'd like to introduce my friend, the governor. Grew up in Parker, Kansas, went to K-State, as we all know here, and even saw a little purple out there earlier today. But I would like to introduce my friend, Governor Sam Brownback.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Hope you got a good stretch out there. And Jeff's doing free consultations. He's a physician. So, if you need anything off the side, just get a hold of him. He'll help you out. Jeff Longbine, congratulations on being a new senator and through your first session. Did a great job. And I hadn't thought about you being the only senator that has your full districts in the Flint Hills. So, great. Go eat some grass, I guess, huh? He's a good guy, and I'm delighted to have him in that position. And he's going to do a great job of it as well. I want to make just very brief comments and get into the presenters because we want to get into the meat of the subject here today. It is a beautiful day outside. We're not going to experience that because we need your thoughts and your brains engaged in what we do inside and what we do for this region, the heart of Kansas, the Flint Hills, and how we expand its reach. And I've got a very specific objective that I hope that you can focus on this day. And it's this: the objective of this summit is to identify, to prioritize, and to commit. Identify, prioritize, and to commit to specific projects that will expand opportunities for people to experience the Flint Hills. So we really want to do that, and a number of you have been involved in these over the years already. As the Flint Hills group has met over the years in different iterations and different entities, whether it's the symphony group that's met, or the Flint Hills group itself, or various groupings within it, Flint Hills Ranchers Associations, the counties. You've had a number of different groups that have come together over the years and that have moved the Flint Hills to the forefront nationwide and internationally as the last stand of the tall grass prairie. I mean, this is it. And I was just reading last night the Last Stand of the Tall Grass Prairie, a book on this that was built off of the PBS series, with just a glorious celebration of this is it. This is 97% of what's left of this incredible ecosystem, that it's an ecosystem, that it's an orchestra itself of all the integration of biology and diversity that's within every square foot of the Flint Hills. It's a beautiful thing that exists, and now being discovered by the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And we're the host. We're the people that protect it, that celebrate it, and that invite others into it. And I want to see what we can do to expand those opportunities, to invite, to celebrate, and to bring more people into that ecosystem that we're the host of. This last week, Jeff and I announced an expanded box of protection for the Flint Hills. About 3 months ago, the Department of Interior announced an expansion effort of 1 million acres in conservation protection. This is not them owning it, but them keeping it out of development purposes that the Department of Interior wants to be a part of. The Z-Bar Ranch itself here is a beautiful asset that now is getting a visitor center. That groundbreaking took place a couple of months ago. We're seeing things happen up near Manhattan in a discovery center on the Flint Hills, expanded opportunities. Hopefully we'll have a number of other specific projects coming forward here. And that's what I'm about. I think this place is ready to pop. For as far as just really expanding its reception of people into it to experience the Flint Hills. The signage, I think, is a big help, so people can see, oh, well, I'm going into an area that's called the Flint Hills, and a lot of people wouldn't have known that prior to that. A number of you have worked on the symphony, which I remember the first one I went to, I think it was 2 years ago, And after the first notes were struck by the orchestra, I was texting my staff in D.C. saying, this is magical. We've got to get people out for it. There's something about the blend of the Symphony of the Prairie and the Symphony of Music. Just really it has a synergy that is much more than the individual parts. It is glorious, and it's world caliber. So we want to get more people into it. I said after that, I said, we need to make a month of the Symphony of the Prairie, and everybody that was associated with it fainted, saying, do you know how hard one of these is? And you want us to do a month of it? Yeah, I said, yeah, it'll be simple. You just add on, more event time and activities. And Mike Beam, an old buddy of mine from K-State, is going, you're crazy. But what if we did do that every weekend for a month? And had a Friday and Saturday night. Could you sell tickets out for that? I think you probably could. Actually, I don't have much doubt that you couldn't. I want to recognize Alan Pullum. I was just seeing Alan, my old friend from the Nature Conservancy, who has done a lifetime of preservation of Flint Hills work. Alan, thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. He's a great guy for doing that. We did that first activity. I think he got me up at 4 in the morning to go out on the Flint Hills looking for prairie chickens, which we didn't see. Yeah. Nobody told me about this ahead of time, but I was dressed in orange to go prairie chicken hunting, and then afterwards the guy said, look, you're supposed to be in camo, not in orange to do this. Maybe why you didn't see any out at that time, but it was interesting. Somebody else, I was just out doing the turkey hunt near Florence, Kansas, which this is the first time I'd ever been turkey hunting. I grew up quail hunting, and then I've gone pheasant hunting since then. And I thought they were on this was the governor's one-shot turkey hunt. I thought it was the governor's one-shot snipe hunt after everything that they drugged me through on the day, and we got nowhere with that. Is the writer from the Eagle here that was on that? There he is. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I really thought that was the snipe hunt. And thanks for the book. He sent me a book on hunting and what was the hunting and something on the plains.
Hunting and trading on the Great Plains from 1859 to 1875.
Yeah, it looks like a glorious book. I haven't gotten into it yet, but thanks for saying that because it celebrates again kind of the heritage of what started here. That this is kind of the last stand of the preservation of what it's about. And I know each of you, I've recognized a couple around the room, have that sort of depth of knowledge and story about the Flint Hills. And I think one of the best things we probably can do is to blend those stories and have people get around and know each other. I've got a friend of mine that, his idea is first friendship, then business. And I think probably one of the best things we can do at a summit like this is make sure that people do know who else is in the room. And during the day, we're going to have do breakout sessions and other things so that they can form that bond, that friendship, that knowledge base that then we can expand these opportunities off of. That will be the best and the surest way that we'll get this done. There's going to be controversy. Not everybody agrees on everything on the Flint Hills. There's not a question about that. But most people agree on most things. And what I hope we can do as Kansans is to find accommodation for how we do things together. So that at the end of the day, everybody they're looking at it and saying, well, I like 80% of this, but I don't like all of it. Well, 80% is pretty good. And can we move forward on that 80% as we build these together? And we can do that. Again, thank you. Very specific on our needs. What I hope we get out of this, identify, prioritize, and commit to specific projects that expand opportunities for people to experience the Flint Hills. And I know that's in most of your hearts to do that. One other person I've got to recognize before I hand the mic over is Harlan Priddle, is a dear friend of mine. I was going to say dear old friend, Harlan. I didn't want to recognize you that way, but he was Ag Secretary before I was, Commerce Secretary when I was Ag Secretary. And I don't know of anybody that's got a happier spirit and is more willing to work with people to do things for the state of Kansas than Harlan Priddle. To me, represents just kind of that soul of Kansas nature. Happy spirit that wants to work together to get things done. Harlan, good to have you out for this. All the best to you. I'm going to be around all day visiting with people, listening. And as Jeff mentioned, that's what we want to do is to hear the ideas. But at the end of the day, we want to identify, prioritize, and commit if we can. God bless you all. Robbie, hand that off to the corner.
Thank you, Governor.
Is that going to work? Yeah. Governor, appreciate the memo on the attire for today. Well, I've gotten chastised a couple of times from Murray for not wearing the appropriate thing, but I'll make a deal with you. I will give you fashion advice when you go out in the field if you'll just let me know when I can wear what you're wearing today. I'm one of those guys that do not get out of the house in the morning without my wife making sure that everything matches and I'm wearing the appropriate thing. And had I had a memo, I could have gotten out a hell of a lot quicker this morning. I'll tell you that. But I would like to thank Linda Craighead and all her folks. I know she had a number of people worked on putting this summit together. And thank Linda for their hard work in doing this. And also thank all of you for coming today. This could be a landmark day for Kansas and Kansas tourism. Today's discussion and the decisions that follow will shape our tourism strategy for the Flint Hills and quite possibly provide a template for the rest of the state. And I know with conversations from the governor that he is very interested in hearing from Kansans with ideas on how the state can work alongside Flint Hills stakeholders to grow the economy of this iconic Kansas region. This summit is just the beginning of the work ahead of us. The Young, Nichols, and Gilstrap study, which was done in the mid-90s, pointed out one of the biggest problems we have in Kansas is our perception of ourselves. Apparently, many Kansans are not confident that what we have is anything that other people want to see or experience. For too long, many Kansans have focused their attention on what we are not and what we do not have, rather than who we are and the many assets that we have. The truth is, most tourist attractions around the country have been built or developed to meet leisure time desires or make access easier for a naturally existing site. As an example, I would pose this question: would the Rocky Mountains be the attraction they are without all the development that's taken place to make the sites more accessible? And I would also submit that because of the development that's taken place, numerous other attractions have been developed to add to the economic activity of that region. If Kansas will focus on who we are and what we have, we can do the same thing. And the Flint Hills is a great place to start. We all know the statistics. The tall grass prairie is nearly gone. What's left is mostly right here in the Kansas Flint Hills. When we combine this unique resource with the history, the heritage, and the lifestyle of the area, we have something that is truly marketable. There is no question that people have come to the Flint Hills, and they will continue to come to the Flint Hills just to see their natural beauty and experience the area. We can do more. Through marketing, more people can experience the Flint Hills and all that it has to offer. Through development, we can let people not only see the natural beauty of this part of Kansas, but experience our history, our heritage, and our hospitality. The merging that has taken place with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks and Tourism represents the governor's vision and his confidence in the potential of Kansas. By recognizing the opportunities to promote the natural resources of the state, combining wildlife and parks with tourism gives us the opportunity to market our natural resources in a manner where we can share Kansas in such a way that continues the department's long-standing role to conserve and enhance our natural resources. The governor's action and the willingness of numerous and varied stakeholders has guaranteed the preservation of the tallgrass prairie that is left. By preserving the ecoregion, it gives us great opportunity. Many of the most popular and fastest growing leisure time activities are ideal developments for the Flint Hills. Biking, hiking, and naturally, horseback riding are obvious developments for the area. Even though all of these have great potential, horseback trail riding is the fastest growing equestrian activity there is. And it's also in the top 10 among all outdoor activities. I think it's actually 5th. With the rich western heritage of the area, trail riding and associated development should be a natural. We do, however, have some unique challenges. As with many of the outdoor activities in Kansas, we have access issues. Compared to other states, we do not have much public land. Because the Flint Hills, like most of Kansas, is in private ownership, landowners must be involved to be successful. The department stands ready to work with landowners and the communities of the Flint Hills region to develop a strategy that works for us all. Only a strong and consistent team effort will succeed in growing the Flint Hills economy. I should take just a moment to talk specifically about wildlife parks and tourism and how they fit together. There are certainly a number of popular man-made tourist destinations. But if you look at most popular destinations in the United States, with rare exceptions, all of the most popular destinations are naturally existing attractions that have been developed or developments that have taken place around a nature-based resource. In Kansas, I would dare say that we currently only have one, by definition, high-volume destination attraction, and that's the Kansas Speedway in Wyandotte County. The outdoor opportunities that we have are indeed destination attractions in that people come to Kansas specifically for them, except they're on a smaller scale. If we focus on the total outdoor experience in Kansas, it can certainly be a major destination attraction in anybody's definition. By promoting the Kansas outdoors as destinations and strategically coordinating with other attractions, it will benefit us all, adding significantly to our quality of life and creating economic activity through tourism. The adage that a rising tide raises all boats will prove true. By focusing on what we have that is unique or truly marketable to the general public, we can also market our attractions that have a more specialized clientele. In the last 25 years, I've had the opportunity to be in every county of this state multiple times. And I thought I knew the state pretty well. And with that background experience, I believed we had more potential than we were taking advantage of. But in the last 4 months, I've been to several places in this state that I've never been to before, and I'm more convinced than ever of the potential Kansas has. I've also had the opportunity to spend a fair amount of time around the country, and I can honestly say that all things considered, no place in this country has anything on Kansas. I've seen ads for neighboring states on TV and in magazines that we could have filmed right here in Kansas. I've had numerous people come out to Lane County to hunt in the fall. And folks, I grew up out there in the High Plains. I like it. I appreciate it. I understand how someone who's more used to a few more trees and rolling hills may not appreciate our viewscape. But I like it. And the folks that come out and hunt in Lane County, Kansas, fall in love with the state because of the beauty of fall and in the field hunting pheasants. And it's time for us to recognize what we have and share it with others. In doing that, more people will have a vested interest in protecting our natural resources and preserving our history, our heritage, and our way of life. Thank you. Nobody else may be able to use this now.
Thank you, Secretary Jennison. Good morning. It truly is a beautiful day in the Flint Hills. And I think we're all here because we do recognize the distinct and unique attraction that this wonderful area has for Kansas to bring visitors from our state and from across the world. I'm going to find my clicker here. I apologize to the folks on the left side. You may not be able to see this very well. Several years ago, work began at the state level to develop a blueprint for tourism in the region. There we go. And within travel and tourism and the Department of Commerce, priorities and resources were realigned to allow in research and activities to really obtain a clearer understanding of the product that exists here and the opportunities. And several strategies were implemented concurrently to achieve this goal. We undertook an interstate traveler study to gain better insight into all the hundreds of thousands of folks that pass through our interstates yearly. We conducted a cultural and heritage study, which assisted us in assessing our cultural and heritage assets across the state. An agritourism initiative was put in place at the state level to support and encourage more agritourism development in Kansas. The Travel and Tourism Division contracted with Dr. David Edgell, who put a tourism strategic plan in place. And we also invested many more of our resources into research to really take a deeper look at our visitors and our potential visitors to our state. We provided individual community assessments to those that wanted to participate and have their communities assessed from a visitor's perspective. And a marketing plan was put into place with much more focused and strategic direction. Our findings confirmed that our interstates truly are rivers of opportunity, but we've got to get them off the beaten path. Our attractions and our experiences are typically long distance apart, and we need to provide better orientation for our visitors and facilitation through travel through regions. We also learned that political boundaries are irrelevant to travelers, and cooperation and collaboration must occur to develop this business. The experiences we offer in Kansas are as good as any, but our travelers just don't know how to find them. We engaged Fermata, Inc., a leader in experiential tourism development, to assist in uncovering the assets in the Flint Hills. And their report was presented in September of 2005. They assessed 140 sites initially and more later within the region. And at those sites, they examined 22 distinct characteristics of each site. They spent a considerable amount of time in our region. They ate at our dining facilities. They slept in our inns. They talked to the residents about all sorts of issues. And Fermata looked at this project with the knowledge that there were three ways to really conceptualize how to build tourism in the Flint Hills. The tallgrass prairie model, a view that's probably the most restricted, really just dealing with the untilled tallgrass prairie, ecologically based. The Kansas Flint Hills Prairie model, which is also ecologically based, but not so dependent on the strictest interpretation of the tallgrass prairie. And then the Kansas Flint Hills Heritage model, which is a more broad approach to tourism development, and ultimately recommended that Kansas adopt the heritage model for tourism development. And I'm going to quickly go through the 15 action steps that they recommended occur within this region. You're going to hear more about some of these that have been accomplished later on, I think, throughout the day. Action 1 was to develop an implementation plan for the creation of a Kansas Flint Hills Heritage Area. Number 2 was to extend the Flint Hills Scenic Byway north from Council Grove to Manhattan and then east along I-70 to Topeka. Connect the Flint Hills Scenic Byway to the Wetlands and Wildlife Scenic Byway via Highway 56. Develop a coordinated suite of portals and gateways that invite and inform travelers to the Kansas Flint Hills. And recommended the development of a Flint Hills Gateway facility along I-70 and perhaps I-35. Develop a portal at the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. Provide detailed information on the web regarding the natural, historical, and cultural sites within the Flint Hills. Partner with the National Geographic in the development of a Kansas geotourism map guide. Align state and federal economic development programs to support the conception and creation of Kansas Flint Hills travel and tourism businesses. And to align state and federal economic and agriculture programs to support and develop new products and services, either directly or indirectly related to travel and tourism in the Flint Hills, and particularly on private land. And recommended the expansion of the use of conservation easements on the private lands within the region. Align state transportation and enhancement and scenic byway funds to further the efforts of the Kansas Flint Hills Heritage Tourism Initiative. And to develop a uniform interpretive and recreational strategy for all state parks and game lands in the Flint Hills region. And in order to organize promotion and marketing efforts in the region, they recommended the development of a marketing consortium consisting of all the chambers and convention and visitors bureaus in the Flint Hills region. And also recommended a branding strategy for the Flint Hills. There's been a lot of shared success since that report was unveiled in September of 2005. And not all agree on the individual strategies that were recommended in the study, but there is broad-based support for the Fermata Plan by government and communities, and it has become the blueprint for developing Flint Hills within our region. The Flint Hills Tourism Coalition was formed. They've been working diligently for a number of years with various groups and agencies across the state. A Flint Hills brand was developed by the coalition. They began exploring a national heritage area and have done work trying to collect the unique stories that the residents of the region have to share. National Scenic Byway designation was obtained shortly after release of the Fermata study for the Flint Hills Scenic Byway. And most recently, there's been a redesigned state byway program and a revamped marketing plan. The new gateway and directional signs have been erected. There were Flint Hills heritage panels and exhibits installed at our rest areas. Heritage brochures have been developed. A website was created, Flint Hills, kansasflinthills.travel, and we're working with them currently to migrate that to a microsite within travelchaos.com. And all sorts of marketing, not only through travel and tourism at the state level, but certainly through the communities and destination marketing organizations within the regions, both in terms of publications and print ads, but also broadcast, digital, public relations efforts, our international marketing activities. And we all remember the tremendous gift that Jim Richardson of Lindsborg gave us with 22 pages of spectacular photography within the April 2007 issue of National Geographic, which also resulted in a traveling exhibit throughout the region. And we thought that traveling exhibit would have a lifespan of about 2 months, and I believe it was about a year and a half later we finally had to retire those photographs as they'd been all over the state and actually outside the state. The Agri Tourism program has certainly expanded as more and more agriculture operators have recognized the potential for visitation to their places. The Equestrian Trail Project is underway under the leadership of Dr. Tom Warner, taking a look at what can be done to link up ultimately 22 counties in the Flint Hills Tourism Coalition with equestrian trails. There's a gateway center being studied currently at I-70 and 177 being led by the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. And of course, the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve Visitor Center broke ground, and that project is well underway. So what about the future? It was said earlier, and I couldn't agree more, that much has been accomplished, but there's a lot of work to do to really truly capitalize on this unique destination that we have. Trends in the travel industry really support development. Folks are looking for shorter trips, they're staying closer to home, and they're looking for new destinations. They've done the beaches, they've done the mountains, they've done the metropolitan areas. They're seeking out value, and not just from a money perspective, but that emotional value when they travel. And they're traveling in search of connection. Travel provides the opportunity to reconnect with our friends and our family, which is very important to people today. And authenticity is more important than ever. The tourism economy in the Flint Hills, including the important gateway cities of Topeka and Wichita, is approaching $2.9 billion annually, and that's from our Global Insight study that was conducted last year. I think with enhanced focus and investment, we all need to think about what we could accomplish for the Flint Hills in the future. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Got that clipped on right, so we'll start the day off well, I guess. What a fabulous, gorgeous day to be out here. I've never been to this facility, and I had to sit on this side of the room because I was afraid I might start focusing out those windows if I was closer to that area. Really excited to be here today. My name's Maggie Thompson-Dahl. I'm with the Kansas Department of Transportation. And first of all, I want to send the regrets of Secretary Miller, who was disappointed she was unable to be here today, as this is something she's very interested in. Well, as many folks have been saying, I think we all can agree that identifying ways to improve the economic vitality and employment opportunities for any region in Kansas will be of benefit to all of us. And without question, the Flint Hills offers beauty and natural resources that are particularly special to Kansas. This morning, I'd like to share some information on some of the ways that KDOT can be of assistance to communities, including those here in the Flint Hills, in helping to create or sustain economic opportunities. In terms of tourism, our agency has a long-standing relationship with other state agencies involved in promoting our state as a tourist destination. Whether through installing signage such as the Experience the Flint Hills and the concrete Welcome to the Flint Hills signs, or constructing visitor and welcome centers, we understand the supporting role our agency plays in tourism, and we look forward to continuing those partnerships. Specifically, our agency has a couple of programs that I want to make sure you're aware of that can be of assistance to communities. First, we have the Transportation Enhancement Program, which can provide dollars to communities or regions who are looking to increase touristic value through projects like restoring historic buildings, something like train depots maybe, improving streetscapes, constructing tourist and welcome centers, or creating pedestrian and bicycle facilities. This is actually a federally funded program that KDOT administers, and projects are selected every 2 years. And actually this summer, KDOT will be hosting a workshop for people who might be interested in applying for some of these funds. Certainly come see me throughout the day, and I can get you in touch with the staff for those details. Applications are going to be due at the end of this year, and they'll be selecting projects in May of 2012. So the timing's pretty good with having this summit today. I will kind of throw a caveat in there that with some of the federal transportation funding, there is some question if that program will continue, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that that opportunity will still be there and of interest to some of you in this area. Another example of KDOT's work to promote tourism is the Kansas Byways program, and I want to acknowledge our agency partners at the Kansas Department of Commerce and the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, who we work with on that program. As the former U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Rodney Slater, said when he established the National Scenic Byways program, transportation is about more than asphalt, concrete, and steel. It's about partners and connection. The Kansas Byways program started in the early 90s as a cooperative effort among private citizens, local groups, local governments, and state government agencies. And the goal of the program is to increase tourism and educate the public about the state's environment, history, and culture. Kansas currently has a total of 10 byways along 680 miles of roadways. And according to Kansas Travel and Tourism staff, those byways are consistently ranked among the top interests in our state. And the Flint Hills region actually hosts 2 of the state's 10 byways. And through our partnerships, we work to enhance those byway communities through projects like the construction of information kiosks on all Kansas byways. As Becky mentioned, the Visitor Information Center at the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve, which sounds like under construction or will be shortly. An AM radio information system that provides educational information along the Flint Hills National Scenic Byway. And we've been doing some work to develop marketing campaigns to promote the byways across Kansas. An example, one of the latest projects is one we're actually able to do through a national grant, a competitive grant, but to create a series of short videos and still photography to help promote the beauty and what the byways have to offer. And the great thing is those won't only be used by us here in the state agencies to help promote, but they're things that can be used by the communities in those byways to help show what they have to offer. And I would say, for those of you, I know many of you out here are already involved in the Byways program, but if you're looking for more information, Sue Stringer from KDOT, who manages that on behalf of KDOT, is here, and I know she'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that today. I also wanted to bring up a few programs that, in addition to kind of the tourism-focused programs, that our state's new transportation program, T-Works, there's some programs under that which I think can be of assistance to communities in the region. The T-Works The program was actually built on extensive public outreach process. And based on that input, we made a number of revisions to the way that we do business. So we've improved our processes, we've made things more flexible, and I think easier for Kansas communities and businesses to take advantage of the available programs. For example, our new economic development program is a way to fund transportation improvements to help grow the economy by creating or sustaining jobs. It's funded at about $10 million a year, and it's available for projects like constructing turn lanes into and out of areas to help with traffic, things with airport improvements or maybe railroad improvements, those type of things. And communities or developers can actually apply for these funds. And we've structured it in a way that we're able to meet immediate needs. So if there's something that's really dependent on these transportation improvements, we can have decisions turned around in 45 days or less. And we have other programs such as the Rail Rehabilitation Program or the Aviation Program that also have annual funding available. We've also eased the application process a bit, and so a lot of times communities came to us and they didn't know where their project would really fit into what pot of funding. And so we've created kind of a general application process. You just can come to us and talk to us about what project you're looking to do, and we can help find the right place for that project to be submitted. And look for, in the next few days, hopefully we'll have some new web pages up and some information on all of those programs. And finally, I want to let you know about our federal fund exchange program, which is something new that was made available under T-Works. What this program does is it allows local governments to swap out the federal funds that they get for state funds because the state funds have less prescriptive requirements and it makes them easier to use. And so for every dollar of federal funds, the local community can trade that for 90 cents of state funds, and those carry fewer restrictions. They can actually do more projects and they can do them less expensively. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We have a history of working with many of you here in this room, and we're excited about the tools and flexibility that the T-Works program has offered our agency, and we're looking forward to putting transportation to work for the Flint Hills.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Carol Jordan. I have the honor, and I'm lucky to be able to be here today representing the Department of Commerce because my boss, Secretary of Commerce Pat George, also had a conflict today, but he sends greetings. As I look around, I know I'm going to talk fast because I see so many partners here, and I want to listen as much as I talk. Also, because once I get started talking, I can't help but talk fast. I'm called the Senior Director of the Rural Development Division. Hopefully it doesn't have anything to do with my age, but I've had a few years, a lifetime in Kansas, and it seems to me not that long ago that the Flint Hills were our best kept secret. And I like the fact that now we're starting to share that secret among ourselves and with folks from other countries, other states, other nations. I think that benefits both us and those other folks too. So it's great to share that secret. We have something unique in the Flint Hills, and it's the unique things that can benefit us, both our probably our spirits and also economically. So for all of us here today, the Flint Hills represent a huge opportunity to help the state revitalize rural communities, energize travel and tourism, expand our economy, and create jobs. Again, glad to be a partner in that. And I see all the kinds of partners that we work with on a regular basis. I see conservation folks, I see government folks, federal and state, I see economic development folks, I see entrepreneurs and small businesses. And this is who we need to work together to maximize the opportunities we have. During his campaign, Governor Brownback pledged to strengthen rural areas of Kansas, and developing a plan to responsibly use and market the Flint Hills has got to be a key part of that goal. The plan will work in partnership with other of the governor's initiatives and also some of the day-to-day activities that we in the Department of Commerce, both in rural development and business development, do kind of on a day-to-day basis. We all know that the governor signed a bill April 11th, I think, creating rural opportunity zones for 50 of our counties that were hit hardest over a long time now with population loss. Program's going to offer some student loan forgiveness and state income tax rebates to individuals who move into one of the rural opportunity zone counties that have been designated in the state. Some of those counties are close to the Flint Hills. That includes Marion, Washington, Greenwood, Elk, and Chautauqua. We think that the rural opportunity zones can be another tool to help attract residents, workers, and businesses to these counties and to this region. And so that program will be administered through the Rural Development Division in the Department of Commerce. We're working hard to get those rules and regs and processes and information out and working directly with the 50 counties to try to help them understand what we're learning about ourselves as we get it together. Agri Tourism holds great potential to help our spur economic development around the Flint Hills. Agri Tourism has been a part of the Department of Commerce since '04 when the state passed a law about agri tourism. Traditional farmers and ranchers, we can help them involved in rural Kansas develop business. Some of these people were not necessarily business people, but it's an opportunity to maximize benefits both to rural communities and to the farms and ranches themselves. The state can assist the businesses with mentoring, marketing, and liability concerns. I think it's got to be a key component helping promote the Flint Hills. Agritourism program, in part of the governor's efficiency moves, is going to be making a move real soon to the Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism, where I think it will grow and flourish, and I hope we still have the opportunity to partner with agritourism activities, because it's been a part of our programs we've been real proud of. Another program that will be moving to the Department of Agriculture, where I think it will also grow and flourish, is our Simply Kansas program for our ag value added loan clients and ag value added companies, which can be both agri tourism companies or food companies or even soy candle or knitting companies, that sort of thing. So that helps brand our Kansas products for ourselves and from people who come to Kansas, and our Kansas experiences as well. So we look forward to working closely with the Department of Agriculture when that happens. We all know this. We probably all have our handheld device with us today, and we are wanting to multitask. Nothing happens in today's world without access to the internet and high-speed, reliable access to the internet. That's key to economic development. It's also key to making sure our rural residents and our rural communities are on a level playing field with the rest of the world. The Department of Commerce is leading an initiative to increase broadband internet access throughout rural Kansas. It's called Connect Kansas. First of all, we help the state map where broadband access is available, and we'll be keeping that map up for a few more years here, and then helping us talk together and look at ways that we can help other efforts expand broadband access and use, especially in our rural areas. In our program, we have the Community Development Block Grant Program, and I know some folks who know that program probably better than I do that are in the audience, but helps distribute federal funds through HUD to our rural Kansas communities and cities and counties to improve the area. Lots of facets of the program, but usually help build infrastructure, benefit residents, or help rebuild after a disaster that nobody could plan on before and funds were not easily available. Another facet of that program is the Economic Development Program, where we can, when an area has the opportunity to sustain or attract a new business, grant funds to the area that they can loan to the business or that they can use to build access roads or rail spurs or other infrastructure to help them. So we are always happy when we can use those federal dollars wisely to help the rural communities. We have our 4 field people. They are our foot soldiers on the ground, the rural opportunity representatives. They're out there. They live in rural communities. Their job is to work with communities of 5,000 or fewer to help them make the connections they need and build their plans for the future. The rural opportunity folks are right now, their number one goal is to work with the counties, the 50 counties first, that are rural opportunity zones, to help them understand and decide to opt in and make real use out of this extra tool in our toolbox. They also work closely with the business development regional people who also are intimately involved with their regions and understand businesses. They will work together to ensure that we maximize the use of the tools that the legislature and governor give us every year, and this year, the new ones. Another thing that we have is the Main Street program in the Rural Development Division. We believe that Main Streets are the heart of a community, and through Main Street, when a community makes the decision to enter the program and do the work necessary to build the heart of their community, then we help them help themselves to make more of their community. I mentioned just a few of the programs to show that we can be a partner with y'all to help build up communities in the Flint Hills region. Truly believe that strong communities then become great places to live and to work and to stay. When a town for a region is a great place to live, then it's a great place for tourists to come and share that living. So we hope to work with you to further that goal. So thanks. Look forward to hearing from folks today. Thanks a lot. How's that? Yeah, now we work. Okay, thank you very much, Ron. Good morning. I'm Chris Wilson with the Department of Agriculture, and it's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of Secretary of Agriculture Dale Rodman. We wanted to focus in our comments this morning on the perspective of the Flint Hills as a very important agricultural asset. I don't need to tell any of you that the Flint Hills are an incredible agricultural asset. And like many of you here today, I live in the Flint Hills and farm and ranch in the Flint Hills. We've owned land in the northern Flint Hills for the past 26 years, and my family and I now live on the ranch in the Flint Hills where my husband was raised. Over the weekend, he finished moving cattle to our High Plains Ranch on Silver Creek, where they spend the summer months, after getting a great burn there. And that's always a wonderful feeling to have that great burn and to turn the cattle out into the pasture with the new grass after the winter months. Visitors to our ranch so often say, this is a beautiful setting, that it's become a family joke. But it's also true. So often what is second nature to us we take for granted. We know that the Flint Hills are a great ag asset, but it still surprises me how much others appreciate and value the opportunity just to visit our ranch. They value both the farming and ranching operation and also the location. Dr. Jim Hoy, in his book, Flint Hills Cowboys, talks about the hallmarks of the Flint Hills ranching. He said that in the Flint Hills, the farmer and the cowboy can be, and often are, the same person. The farmer stockman who might well drive a tractor one day and ride a horse the next, raising both cattle and crops. I think that is so true of the Flint Hills. On our ranch, like many others in the Flint Hills, we have both farm ground and native prairie. And my mother-in-law loves to tell visitors to the ranch that it's native prairie that's never been broken, and how she loves to look out there from her front porch and think of the buffalo grazing there. While we know the Flint Hills are a great agricultural asset, there's much that we can do to market and value this asset. We need to recognize and to reinforce that it is a unique asset that needs to be encouraged and valued for its agricultural benefits. The Flint Hills' rich nutritive grasses are excellent for raising cattle, and this is one thing that Secretary Rodman loves to talk about. You know, the Flint Hills provide an average daily gain of over 2 pounds during the grazing season. And this year, given the high feed costs, the value of the gain on pasture is projected to be over $100 per hundredweight, which would represent the second to third highest values since 1992. This cow herd is the foundation providing stockers for Kansas feedlots and important in achieving the governor's roadmap for Kansas' goal of growing animal agriculture in our state. Secretary Rodman will be hosting another summit on growing animal agriculture later this year. The Secretary likes to note that the U.S. beef cow numbers have declined since 2006, but not in Kansas. USDA's cattle inventory report released at the end of January revealed that the U.S. beef cow herd declined by 500,000 head in 2010. Several factors, including heightened corn prices, have contributed to regional shifts as well as the decrease in the overall numbers. The Northwest and North Plains were the only two regions to show a slight increase in 2010 compared to the prior year. Most states' numbers declined. Kansas had the largest increase of 44,000 beef cows, and the Flint Hills are extremely important to this increase. Of course, the Flint Hills, as you know and has been mentioned, are valued as the last major remaining expanse of tallgrass prairie in the nation. Today, only 4% of the 170 million acres of prairie in North America remains, and more than 2/3 of that remaining prairie is in the Kansas and Oklahoma Flint Hills, providing a unique ecosystem representation of tallgrass prairie. The prairie is preserved through maintaining the ecosystem and its use as a grazing land. That the cattle as surrogates for the buffalo are what have maintained the prairie. A long tradition of fire management by ranchers to improve rangeland productivity has prevented the intrusion of trees and woody plants and other undesirable plants into the prairie, and the fire has saved the prairie. When air quality concerns threatened the preservation of the prairie through burning, Kansas Common Sense brought together regulators, policymakers, agricultural organizations, and environmentalists to develop the Kansas Smoke Management Plan, both to protect air quality and make sure that the Flint Hills were preserved through burning. Now, I always think of that Kansas common sense and contrast it with what's happened to agriculture in other areas of the country so that it's something that we don't take for granted. In the timber industry, where a lack of understanding has led to bans on controlled harvest and regrowth. In Oregon, where a ban on burning enacted in 2010 prevents grass fields from being burned. Recently, legislation introduced in the U.S. Senate by Senators Moran and Inhofe addresses this issue. S. 989 recognizes that prescribed fires are necessary and a natural occurrence. It exempts landowners and local governments from liability under Clean Air Act standards if EPA's enforcement action is attributed to smoke from prescribed fires in the Flint Hills. It's vital to the continuation of the Flint Hills that we market this asset through informing and educating policymakers and the public about this resource. In recent years, the way that we have both shared the resource with others and marketed it is through agritourism. I would not have thought that people from throughout the country would pay good money and travel to the Flint Hills to watch a pasture burn, but Jan Jansen did. That led to his Flames in the Flint Hills event and Adventures in the Flint Hills agritourism business, and has also led Jan in working with the agritourism program and people throughout the Flint Hills to help many other Kansas farmers and ranchers begin a wide variety of agritourism ventures. There are tens of agritourism ventures operating in the Flint Hills today, as varied as the farming and ranching operations and the people of the Flint Hills. There are many creative initiatives that have been already mentioned, such as the Symphony and the Flint Hills Discovery Center. All of these efforts are making the Flint Hills an increasing tourism destination. Agritourism has multiple benefits. It provides added value and income opportunities for Flint Hills farmers and ranchers, increases income opportunities for rural communities. It creates greater opportunities for something that's very important to us in agriculture, and that is to pass our farming and ranching operations to succeeding generations. It provides opportunities and experiences for visitors from literally around the world. And just with my family's fall festival, it has always amazed me how many countries we have represented there in visitors on weekends in October. It creates greater appreciation, understanding, and support for agriculture and the significance of the Flint Hills on the part of the public and policymakers. As someone who's been involved in agriculture all my life, it continues to amaze me that schools return each year with new students to visit our ranch and to experience the animals and the prairie and the history, and that families return each fall for our fall festival and pumpkin patch. For me, it's a day-to-day experience, but for many others, it's a unique and special experience. Marketing that asset and being willing to share it with others isn't easy. And another saying that's often mentioned on our ranch is that agritourism is not for sissies, especially when your wife and agritourism partner is working in Topeka and you're doing it by yourself, like yesterday. But it is worthwhile for our guests and for us. Another saying at our ranch is that horses are magic. I think that's a Jan Jansen quote also. And as Dr. Hoy says, this is cowboy country. So let us not forget that the Flint Hills are cowboy country. And with that comes the mystique of the cowboy and horses. Time and again, we find there's magic for both children and adults in being around horses. We think of providing pony rides for children for an event, and then are surprised that it's the adults who want to get up on that horse. For some who've never been on a horse before, and for whom it's been many years. My friend Abby Amick, who also lives in ranches in the Flint Hills and works to promote them, says that those in the Flint Hills have sustained a lifestyle that the rest of the world yearns for. And that is very true. Agriculture in the Flint Hills is positioned to continue as an excellent grazing resource for producing cattle,
as well as a source of field crops and forages, and a unique area to be experienced and appreciated. As has been mentioned, thanks to Governor Brownback and the support of the legislature, on July 1, the Ag Marketing Program, Animal Health, and Conservation Commission will be joining the Department of Agriculture. We are very much looking forward to that and to working with those programs and to continuing to work with Commerce and Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism in promoting agriculture in the Flint Hills. My colleague Sarah Green from the Department of Agriculture is here with me today, and she will continue to be working with the Agri Tourism programs and with agricultural marketing as it moves to the Department of Agriculture. We appreciate being included in the summit today. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Brian Obermeyer with the Nature Conservancy, and I can see that I should have probably printed off some notes from my PowerPoint because I'm going to have a tough time seeing these. I may have to step around the bin here a little bit. I'm not sure which button. Okay. I'm the project director for the Flint Hills Initiative. I've been at this about 10 years. The overriding goal of the Flint Hills Initiative is to preserve the unfragmented nature of this last landscape of tallgrass prairie. There's a really nice photo here on the slide, but for those that can't see a slide, just look out the set of glass and it's very similar. Like I said, the Flint Hills is the last expanse of tallgrass prairie. It's the only tallgrass prairie remnant, and it is a remnant because there's only about 4% left of the historic 170 million acres that once covered the American heartland. But this is the only one with significant scale and intactness. It is a world treasure. And it's really good to see Kansas recognize this. I know when I first started with the Nature Conservancy 10 years ago working in the Flint Hills and talking about the significance of tallgrass prairie, there were some that said, well, I've got a pasture, but I'm not sure it's tallgrass prairie. And it's so evolved in the last 10 years that people talk about it as an ecosystem and really appreciate it. And I hear it all over now that maybe 10 years ago it was not as well known just how significant this last landscape of prairie is. I had an interesting conversation once with a botany professor from Iowa, and he talked about taking his class out to experience the tallgrass prairie, and this is in Iowa, and the biggest patch of prairie he could find was something like maybe 20 acres. And he would get his class to get on their knees and then do this and pretend what the Flint Hills or what the tallgrass prairie once was like. And then he would tell his class, if you really want to get a feel for what the prairie was like, just go to the Flint Hills of Kansas, and you can get up on top of a high ridge, and you don't have to do this. And there's some kids there that are experiencing that view and that experience that only here that you can get that sense. I should say I've got my buddy Bob Hamilton from Oklahoma. He's works in the Osage Hills of Oklahoma, which is the southern extension of the Flint Hills. So Kansas doesn't have all of the tallgrass cornered. It's got a sizable portion down there as well, and we're working very hard in that area as well to try to preserve that landscape. One of the reasons we have a landscape of tallgrass prairie left in North America is because of the shallow limestone and chert rock that prevented the plow. But unfortunately, there are some things that those rocks can't prevent. Incompatible development, the fragmenting of the landscape. And it's really about habitat fragmentation that we're really most concerned about. I mentioned earlier in my at the beginning that our overriding goal for the Flint Hills is to preserve, maintain that intactness, that unfragmented nature of the Flint Hills. And one of the tools that we've used to try to preserve that as a tool, conservation tool called a conservation easement. Went too far there. Anyway, conservation easements are voluntary agreements between a landowner and a land trust that restrict certain uses of the land to protect, to conserve its agricultural and natural features in perpetuity. They're generally in perpetuity conservation easements. If you think of property rights as a bundle of sticks, what a conservation easement does is either purchase or you donate a few of those rights, such as the right to commercially develop for tax benefits or cash. So you're just taking away a couple things that you're not using anyway. So that's kind of the essence of it. Except for the rights that are expressed in an easement, they generally do not affect the traditional uses of the land, such as ranching, prescribed fire, that sort of thing. And certainly the easements that we are doing in the Flint Hills, they're designed specifically not to be a hindrance to ranching, only prevent something incompatible down the road. There is certainly a need for conservation easements here and beyond. Actually, conservation easements got their start in the late 1800s, of all places, near Boston, because Boston was sprawling into natural areas. And so that it's been around for a long time. Conservation easements are a relatively newcomer into Kansas, and we have used them in the Flint Hills since about 2004. And since 2004, more than 70,000 acres of easements have been secured in the Flint Hills by the Nature Conservancy, the Kansas Land Trust. Jason Fazell recently was with the Kansas Land Trust. Anyone have any questions about that organization? Jason can visit with you. The Ranchland Trust of Kansas. Mike Beam is the executive director of the Ranchland Trust of Kansas. It's an affiliate of the Kansas Livestock Association. Another entity that's been involved with easements has been USDA through NRCS, and they have two programs. One is the Grassland Reserve Program. The other is the Farm and Ranchland Protection Program. So those have been kind of our partners in doing conservation easements. I can tell you that the goal is not to get as many easements, one entity than the other. We don't really care who does the easement, just as long as it happens. So it's a very collaborative approach. It's been a very good experience. The first easement we did was on the Homestead Ranch in Chase County. Jane Koger, she'll probably kill me for putting this slide up, but anyway, she was really the one that stepped to the plate first and did an easement. We actually had someone else who had stepped to the plate earlier. Kathy and Jim Hoy's nephew, Warren Cruz, he was tragically killed in a plane crash. So Jane stepped in and did the first easement in the Flint Hills with the Nature Conservancy, and I really congratulate her for doing that. It was a real steep learning curve for all of us about how to do an easement, and there were times she probably wanted to kill me, but in the end, she's been very pleased with the experience. She particularly was, it was after the closing of that easement where it really soaked in that this was a good thing, and she was very, very happy to have done it. That easement and many that came to follow, we participated or utilized a program through NRCS called the Farm and Ranchland Protection Program to get part of our funding for that easement. So many of our easements have been purchased easements. We've always asked the landowner to contribute a portion of the value of that easement, basically forfeit some of the dollar amount of that easement. But the USDA has been a very important partner in NRCS. Another ranch family that stepped up to the plate to really try to, and also to encourage others, was Bill and Maggie Hall, who donated over 13,000 acres of easements in the Flint Hills in 2006 and in 2007. And they've been very strong advocates of conservation easements and trying to encourage other landowners to consider donating easements to the various land trusts in Kansas. And we have had other landowners also come forward, and we've done donated easements as well. So, this is just a map showing some of the easements we've done, not all of them. This is kind of in that area, within a stone's throw of Chase County. So altogether, we've done about 37,000 acres worth of easements in the Flint Hills. We've got one in Greenwood County and a couple easements up in Wabaunsee County as well. Another ranch family that stepped to the plate to do a donated easement was Jim and Kathy Hoy, and they chose to go through the Ranch Land Trust of Kansas, and we did work with them to help. We helped the RTK, as they're called, get this first easement off the ground. They've been focused a lot in the Smoky Hill area of Kansas and doing easements out there, but they do hold an easement in the Flint Hills and plan to do many more in the future. And they've been a very valued partner, and particularly communicating with the ranching community about the value of conservation easements and just getting that word out, educating the public. Have been incredible partners. I mentioned earlier the Grassland Reserve Program, and that's, again, through NRCS. And you can see in the blue, apologize, folks, but in the blue you can see some of the easements that have been done through GRP. Altogether, they've done well over 25,000 acres of easements in this region, so a very important partner. Another one, the Kansas Land Trust, I mentioned earlier, Jason, an organization Jason recently worked for, and they were actually the first land trust in Kansas. Their area that they're working is statewide, as really the Ranch Land Trust of Kansas is too, but it's more focused on just the grasslands of Kansas. The Kansas Land Trust will also consider agricultural tilled areas to prevent, urban sprawl into agricultural areas. So they have a little broader mission, but they have focused more recently in the Flint Hills, a little more emphasis, and they've partnered with the Department of Defense in the Army's Combatable Use Buffer Program, and providing money to do easements around Fort Riley to prevent kind of that clash between urban and the military operations at the installation. And one of the really impressive easements that they did just a couple years ago was that on the Moyer Ranch in Geary County, and that was a really nice piece of property that was protected in perpetuity with a conservation easement. A new entity on the scene, interested in doing conservation easements, is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they've, as many of you are aware, Secretary Salazar was here last, I believe it was in November, to announce this important, exciting new initiative by the Fish and Wildlife Service. It's called the Flint Hills Legacy Conservation Area, and the goal is up to 1.1 million acres of easements in the Flint Hills. Again, authorized in 2010. This program is still in its early stages. They're still working through conservation easement language, ranking, all that. So it's not really quite, they're really not out there on the ground knocking on doors, but it is an exciting opportunity for, I think, the Flint Hills in the future. And Mike Rich is the project leader for this initiative. So we're really happy about that. And you can see, some of you, the boundary of what they've identified as their priority area where they're going to be working in the Flint Hills. I want to just kind of conclude by saying, the most important partner that we worked with has been private landowners. And it's really been encouraging to see, especially at these easement closings where a lot of times you're asking the landowner, well, you sign this, you got to sign that, we got to do, and it's just a lot of, it's not a real easy process sometimes. But all the closings we've ever been on, it's just been a very positive thing. And this was one particular easement. It actually adjoins about 2.5 miles of the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve, an easement that's been in the Birch family for well over 100 years. And they brought along the 5th generation of that family, and that was really touching to see. I was a little bit horrified, and you probably can't see it, but his shirt said dirt mover, and I didn't think that was very compatible with an easement closing for grass. But anyway, that's really the fun part of my job is when we finalize a project and they feel good about it and I feel good about it. It's been a real pleasant experience. So thank you all.
Talk to you, and you know, everybody that knows me knows I don't need a microphone, so I'm not going to put it on. But you guys, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to meet people. The reason they were here this morning is to talk to you about programs that are offered to help us continue to preserve, conserve, and grow our programs throughout this state. You know, we have both government and not-for-profit organizations that are represented here. I want you to be able to have an opportunity to identify with them. If you identify some programs that you feel that could benefit your area, be sure to get in touch with them because they're very passionate about what they do. They're very excited about what they do and are more than willing to help you guys. Now, keep in mind a couple things. Number one, these guys are also going to be on a panel. So if you had questions that you feel that are imperative that you ask today, feel free to write that down, pose it potentially either to the governor or somebody else would be happy to ask that question for you if you'd like, or yourself. And these guys can answer some of those questions later this afternoon. So two things that I want to take care of right now. I want to make sure that everybody has one of these yellow sheets of paper. And I know I'm going to make it go and break in just a second, but if you don't, I'm going to put stacks of them up here on the side. This is the very most important part of the day. Okay? So I want everybody to realize that. I want everybody's involvement because, see, you physically get to write down ideas that you have. We want to know. The governor wants to know. His staff, his administration, his team wants to know what your interests are, what your concerns are, what you think would make a difference for the economy in the Flint Hills. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've talked about travel and tourism. We've talked about our roads and bridges. We've talked about small business development in our main streets. We've talked about agriculture. We've talked about conservation easements. You know, we want you guys to throw out some really great ideas. Some of them may be things that we've never even considered. That's why we need your input. That's why we need your help. We really want you guys to take this seriously. Then secondly, before I set these down, I have a team of people here that are employees of these agencies that are represented, with the exception of TNC, because I know TNC has a few people here too. But if those people will come up front, they're going to serve as our facilitators for this breakout session, so you can meet me up here. And then what I really, really want you to do, because I look around here and I see people who are sitting by people they know, you know? I really want you to think about when you come back out here, shaking it up a little bit. You know, get out here and sit down by somebody that you haven't met yet. Or you see their name and you go, man, I've always wanted to know Larry Patton. Larry Patton's right here, guys, if you want to sit by him when you get back. Okay? And so when you come back out from break, you know, you don't have a lot of stuff yet. And if you have stuff, you can leave your stuff right where it's at. But I really want you to think about coming back out here and sitting down by somebody you don't know, somebody you want to get acquainted with, or maybe you really don't know if you want to get acquainted with, but you'll soon find out. Okay? So with that, I'm going to let everybody go to break. I want everybody back here in a different seat with a different face beside you at 11:15. Thank you. You guys did a great job. Great job. I'm sorry.